It's the man, Denard Span. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I'm chilling
You see your,
at home, man. Just hanging out.
do
Was
you
good.
see you see your logo on the bottom there? You
I
see
love
it?
it. That's it. Put some respect on my name.
The Hall of Pretty Goods, Denard Span. Listen, those guys have been just crushing it on Twitter and on social media, and it's all love. Like, I know when I first get out, I was like, man, they're trying to throw shade. They're not trying to throw shade. They're really trying to big people up that aren't going to get Hall of Fame consideration, and they do their homework. And I just love, because you're not the biggest social media person, and you were all about this. Bro, unbelievable. Congratulations, buddy. You had a fantastic career.
I appreciate that, man. And you know what? At first, I was similar to you. You know, they were posting and tagging me and stuff. It started, I don't know, maybe a year ago, 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I was all right, who are these guys? You know what I mean? Like, are you trying to, throw shade? Are you trying to, be sarcastic with me? And it is a little bit, some sarcasm with in this thing.
Yeah.
But it's all, like you said, it's all in good fun. And I love what they're doing. They're giving flowers to, like you said, guys that were really good players, but not Hall of Fame caliber type of players. So, yeah, it was just a cool little 2-3 days. Got a lot of love from, them and a bunch of fans. And, so it's been a cool little run tagging with those.
I love that, man. We were talking about you the other day because I'm back in the coaching scene again. I was up in South Carolina, went to Clemson to coach a game. I'm with our buddies Pat Russo and the Hit Factory group, and we were talking about some of the best players in Tampa Catholic history, and you were certainly in that conversation. What do you remember about playing?
Time out. Tampa Catholic history?
Yeah.
What about Tampa Bay history?
Oh, because we were talking about high school.
Oh, okay. I got to get that straight.
Nah, you're in there.
Now.
So what? No, because what I want to do, here's my idea, because I want to see if you like this. So we have these things where it's like top 10 in history, top 10. I would like to do something where I go around and ask, because you got to ask the OGs, right? You can't just ask the people that have been around in the last 20 years. Because Vince Scagno was in the car with us too, and he goes, bro, we got to talk about the guys from the 70s, right? There was Tampa Catholic got some OGs in there. You know what I mean? You can't just ask people that are younger than the age of 50. You got to go and you got to ask Coach Pete Mulvey. Like, you got to be like, hey, Coach, give me some guys that maybe people have forgotten about. And I was like, and I said, what if I made a top 10 list for Tampa Catholic, Jesuit, Hillsborough, Jefferson, stuff like that? And we were just kind of throwing names against the wall. And that's how the conversation started. And I go, man, I got to do that. But I got to ask Pop Cuesta. You know what I mean? Like,
you got to do your homework. You got to do your
exactly. Because you're not trying to disrespect the earlier generations. So what I was saying, when you were playing ball in the summers in your teenage years, what was that like for you as you were getting ready to really like, hey, I'm about to really start kicking it into high gear and possibly be a collegiate athlete or a pro ball player?
Well, I played multiple sports. I'm trying to think, maybe 1 or 2 summers I did Legion ball for baseball. But aside from that, during the summers, it was like I was gearing up for football season coming up in the fall. So we were doing 2-a-days, in the gym, working out. More of my time, like I said, just focused towards that. But the summertime was essentially like an off season for a professional ball player.
Right.
Time where you're able to close the gap and get better, get stronger, get faster. That was how I spent the majority of my summers was working and trying to perfect my game and get a little bit better.
Your kids are about to, in the next couple of years, really start kicking it into high gear and, they're already little men, but they're about to really, it's so great to see them grow. I know it's still early, but how will you approach that being a dad as far as them playing multiple sports, and what advice would you give to other people? Because I tell people all the time, if I grew up in Tampa, I don't know if I would have played baseball in high school, because me, after going hard in the paint all summer, it was like hockey season now, boys. As soon as those leaves started turning, I was putting the pads on. I'm ready to hit somebody. That was my thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it was always good for me. And I feel like when I really got better at hockey, I even got better in baseball because there was a toughness aspect to it. There was a physicality where it was like, there's nothing on the baseball field I'm remotely afraid of or scared of. I'm blocking 85-mile-an-hour slap shots. I'm getting hit and crushed by 6'2" defensemen, right? So what is your thought process, I guess, for your boys going forward? And what advice would you give to other parents as far as focusing on one sport or, utilizing multiple?
Well, I think you just said it said it perfectly. Just when you were describing just all of the different attributes that you gain from playing hockey and playing other sports. It was the same way with me. I feel like I got tougher playing football. It gave me that edge, just from the way we trained and in the mental part of playing football. And then you go onto the basketball court, and it's an aggressive, fast-paced sport. Agility, changing directions. And then you put me on the baseball field. It was like, this was, it was almost like a cakewalk, if I'm being honest. From a mindset and a pace standpoint, I almost had to dial it down from a baseball standpoint. So in regards to my kids, I'm going to take the same approach. I'm okay with my kids maybe not being the best at baseball or football or whatever sport that they're going to be involved in. I'm okay with that because I'm looking at it as the long game. In the long run, them playing as many sports and honing in on as many skills is going to it's going to play out in the end when you start getting to high school, when their bodies begin to develop. And I'm a firm believer that, you also want to give yourself every opportunity to get a college scholarship. You might love basketball, might be your favorite sport or your first love. But if you're not 6'5", 6'6", your chances are very, very small and diminished. So you just never know what sport is going to call you. For me, like football was my number one sport. That was the sport where I put more time in than I did in baseball. But, obviously baseball was a sport that chose me. So, I want to give my kids as much opportunity as possible.
How was it last week? We were watching the games there on MLB Network, the East-West game, and there was just such a celebration. And, for me, I've always tried to do whatever I could to promote the game in the inner city, promote the game for minorities. That's the way I grew up, right? The way they called our team the United Nations because we had so many different shades of people in our dugout. That's just the way it was. But I've always been a big proponent on that here locally, whether that was with the RBI group or just really focusing on promoting it there with some of our young Black athletes, and to be able to see kind of that celebration and to be able to see all these guys come together. I mean, it was great to watch from my perspective. I saw the video that you put out with, who was that, D. Gordon coming up to you, talking about Ejax, getting a little wild. I mean, what was it like to be a part of that?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful because, you obviously in Major League Baseball, it's a small percentage of Black players in the game. So what does that tell you? That majority of our careers or all of our careers, we were spread out. Yeah. We were never together like that in one setting where we could actually, just connect and reminisce and just, just have a blast. And it was a unique experience. I was having a conversation with Prince Fielder after he won the home run derby there.
What a beast.
I was on the on-deck circle during the game, and we kind of looked at each other, and sarcastically saying to each other like, "Man, we needed this." Just as like retired athletes, African American athletes, just a community of us coming back together. It was something that I think we all needed. Baseball has been our lives, and we've given so much to it. And, we want to continue to pass the baton to the next generation. And we want to see those numbers in the African-American community go up in the game of baseball. So, hopefully, there was some kids at that game or some kids that are watching MLB Network that saw us there, and hopefully it piqued their interest to take baseball a little bit serious.
Yeah, we got to keep that going. And it's more, I always took that very seriously for myself because it can't just be the former black players promoting this message. It's got to be everybody, right? It's got to be everybody. You know, you get that message from different people to be like, hey, it's a great sport, you know. And I think it gets lost in the sauce a little bit of, you know, the minutia of the game's too long, or they're trying to speed up the game. Like we got to remember to be very inclusive when it comes to this sport, and, you know, reach out to our local municipalities and being like, hey, how do we make the entry? How do we make the path to entry for baseball easier? Right.
For
If
everybody.
it's for everybody, right?
Affordability, personality, you know, being able to connect with kids that, you know, that are different than the normal baseball kids. Like we have to do a better job at making, like you said, everybody come together and everybody feel comfortable. You know, we're Americans, we're in this country together, like, you know, better or worse, you know, indifferent. Indifferent, like, you know, we all are share our differences, but we have to find a way to find that commonality and try to give everybody an opportunity to be a part of, you know, such a beautiful game. I mean, we're talking baseball, man. It's come on, man. Like, it's the best game, in my opinion, on earth. It really is.
Yeah, it's a game of failure, right? And that's what I was very lucky to be able to. I mean, just so much being back on the field. Like I even called my mom and dad. I was just like, there's just nothing like it to be around the competition, to be around, you know, affecting the youth, affecting kids on the team, and being there in South Carolina. Cause we went to some schools, man, it was like 1945 all over again. Like, but it's the tradition of baseball, man. There's just nothing like it. We see it. I mean, we see it at your foundation every year when we do the dinner, and we just see all the, you know, sitting down Carl Everett's crazy ass. You know what I mean? Like, it just, I love Carl. I've known Carl for years, but like, he just, no matter what, he talks so much smack and he's always busting my chops, but he loves the game of baseball, and we got to continue to promote that going forward. I mean, how about our Tampa Bay Rays, 22-9 over the last 31 going into the game? I mean, our guys right here, they've adjusted to playing outside at Steinbrenner Field so well. I mean, it's pretty wild to think that this team, they look really sketchy in the beginning, have really settled in pretty nice with this club. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about if you were in this situation this year playing outside. I mean, what adjustments do you think you would have to make as a professional athlete, knowing that, hey, I'm an indoor guy, I'm a Tampa Bay Ray for, you know, I know you didn't play for that long, but I mean, that routine change, how important is that routine to a pro ball player?
I think, especially being here in Florida with the weather and the humidity, that I think that would affect me the most. You know what I mean? Making sure like I didn't tire myself out, because when you're in that dome, you know, it's controlled atmosphere. You're not dealing with the elements outside. Your body stays, I think, a little bit more fresh. I mean, yeah, you take the pounding of the turf, but being outdoors in the summer here, like it's brutal. You know what I mean? But I think, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's been impressive. It almost looks like they built the team to specifically play in these conditions and to be outside. And, you know, they're young, they're athletic, which obviously helps. And you know, most of the guys are young. You know, you think about it. They didn't play a ton of games in that dome, other than, you know, the Lau brothers, the Taylor Walls. I mean, for the most part, the Mangums and the Chandler Simpsons. I'm drawing a blank. Meisner,
yeah.
Those guys didn't play in the Trop. They've played outdoors in the minor league. So, you know, they've come in and done a great job. I mean, right now the team is, you know, putting up runs. They're swinging the bat really nicely. It's almost reminiscent of 2023. You know, anytime the Rays find a way to, you know, get the bats going offensively and they're scoring runs like that, they're pretty much unbeatable, because you know they're going to pitch and play defense.
What I wanted to get your opinion on this, because I look at the way that the game is played, and I'm biased because, you know, it's in my blood, but people always think that baseball is going to be more entertaining if there's more home runs. And I don't necessarily think that that's the case, because I think if you have guys that are just talking about home runs, like, or just swinging for home runs and then they're striking out the other 3 times, like, that's not entertaining to me. Doesn't mean that I don't like, you know, pitchers duels, because I think at times it's fun to see guys throwing hard. But you look at Chandler Simpson and what kind of excitement he brought to the game. Does the MLB need to look, and it's hard, man, because you're not going to change the entire perspective, but you look at college baseball and how exciting that is at times, with bunting and hitting and running and guys stealing, and there's just a lot of energy. What does baseball have to do, I guess, on that aspect of it, of focusing on like, hey, it's not just about the long ball? Because I feel like people are stuck in that late 90s McGuire, Sosa, Bonds as the only way that the game can be entertaining. I think it goes deeper than that.
But back then in the 90s, even though Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, those guys got the glory for hitting the home runs, but there were still guys in the game, in the league, that knew how to run the bases.
Right.
They knew how to lay the bunt down. They knew how to get the runners over. You know, home run hitters, they're always going to get the glory and the love, and they're always going to get paid the most. Right. But I think what happens, or what we get to find a problem is when everybody is trying to do that. Then it becomes monotonous. It becomes boring. It's like you're watching robots go up there because everybody looks alike. You can't even tell who is who. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I think the game's in a better place when you have a mixture of your 3 through 6 hitters that are doing that, but 1 through 2, and 7 through 9, those got to be guys that are athletic, guys that can go first to third, guys that can score on a double from first base, guys who can drop a bunt down, put the ball in play. Like, how many strikeouts do we see with a runner on third base with less than 2 outs? I'm tired of watching it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everybody's going up there trying to hit the ball a mile. No, just put the ball in play. You guys are big leaguers. Let's do a better job at the fundamentals part of the game. So I'm okay with the home runs, but I think it needs we need to have a balance. It has to be more balanced. You know what I mean? The guys that are like Chandler Simpson, you know what I mean? Like, there needs to be a place for them in the game. There used to be he was me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? And it's sad. Like, if I was playing today, I feel like I probably wouldn't last 2 or 3 years in the league because of the metrics and all the things that, how they're grading players now. But you ask every player that I played with, every team that I played for, I brought value to the game because of my speed and the pressure that I put on opposing teams, the same way that Chandler Simpson does.
How frustrating is that as a former player when you hear people try to use analytics as a way to describe what a good ball player is? And the reason why I ask you that is I remember being in the press box a couple times with our good buddy Orestes Estrada, and we'd be having a conversation with somebody and he would just look at me and he'd be like, JJ, we're not going to win this argument, buddy, because you have arguments with people, or you have these discussions with people and they've never touched a baseball, and they go, well, look, I mean, this guy hits, left-handed pitchers on Friday nights after 7:00. He's 3 for 5. So that means he's a great hitter. And it's just like, there's so much that goes into the game that you can't compute with numbers. A guy's heartbeat. That's what Jeter says. What number is a heartbeat? I look at it like you just said. What about a guy that grounds out to second base with a runner on third base with less than 2 outs and scores that run? It's just an RBI ground out in the book. But that type of selflessness and that type of mindset, what that kind of impacts your team, and people go down the dugout, they're like, bro, appreciate that, man. Appreciate you giving yourself up. How annoying is that as a former big leaguer to hear when people try to compute what a good ball player is and what a good team is based solely on some analytic and something that you really have to look up what this acronym means?
I get analytics. I get it. I really do. And, I guess to an elementary understanding of it is, you try to put a number, or you try to, make understanding of how good a player is. And you try to make a metric or a measuring stick to see, is this guy on this side of it, or is this guy on this side of it? By how hard he hits the ball, by how many times he swings and misses, by how many times, whatever, his launch angle. You know what I mean? Like, you try to take those things and measure what a player is. More times than not, they're probably going to be right. You know what I mean? With the analytics. But we all know, not only just in baseball, but in life in general, there's outliers, right? There's certain things where you can look at and you're like, man, like I just can't put my finger on that. Or, man, like 2 + 2 just doesn't equal 4 in this situation.
Right.
No matter, I'm looking at it. This guy is, 5'5", Altuve. He's not big. He's not strong. But how does he, there's no way he's going to be a big leaguer. There's no way. And this dude now all of a sudden is a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's certain things that you just can't measure. There's certain things that you just can't explain, or some things you just can't understand.
Right.
You know what I mean? But as guys that have played the game, you can look at a guy and be like, yeah, that dude's a baller. Like
Yeah.
I know he didn't hit the ball the hardest. I know he's not the fastest runner, but it's something about his instincts. It's something about the way he's able to, flush a tough stretch or a tough game, and he's ready to go. It's something about how he is in the clubhouse, in the locker room. That goes a long way. Those are things, like you said, that you cannot, put a number or a figure to. Real baseball people that have been around the game and played the game, they have an eye for that. They have a knack for that.
Baseball's the best because you have a guy that's 5'6" or a guy that's 6'6", and you're playing the same sport, which is kind of crazy. They're all built in different shapes and sizes. I've seen some of the most unathletic people in the world be fantastic pitchers. Yep. I've seen guys that are rail thin. You're like, this dude isn't even 140 pounds soaking wet and be a great pitcher. Like, it's amazing. Who's that one player? And don't give me a Mauer. Don't give me a Harper, a guy like that. Give me one guy that you played with in your career that from the outside looking in, you're like, I don't know what he brought to the table. Maybe a guy that didn't win an all-star game, and it doesn't have to be a great player either, but who is that one guy that really made more of an impact on your club than what shows on the back of his baseball card?
My mind goes to like all the glue piece guys that I played with. I'm not even forget the superstars. The superstars, don't get me wrong, they're great and they get all the glory, but it's the glue guys that never get the glory. And I've been on great teams where the front office thought, all right, yeah, we can, since we got these Mauer Morneaus or the Buster Posies or the Bryce Harpers, we can subtract a guy from the bullpen. We can subtract, this utility second baseman, and we'll be fine. And then that next year we sucked.
Yep.
And they're wondering why. They can't figure it out. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking of like the Nick Puntos of the world.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like Danny Espinosa. I'm thinking about shucks, I'm gonna throw myself in there. Like, I was a glue guy. I was not a superstar player. So like, yeah, I mean, there's so many instances of, or like I'm thinking, or like late inning reliever guys that were not our setup guys or our closers, but they were like our bridge gap guys that were very important to us getting to those guys. That I remember in Minnesota in 2010, we were really good. We didn't sign 2 or 3 guys, Jesse Crane, Matt Guerrier. We didn't sign those guys back.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the next year we were last place. And we had the same core superstars. We didn't get rid of Joe Nathan. We didn't get rid of Mauer Morneau. I was on we had our core team, but we didn't sign our glue pieces. And it was a massive turnaround. Nick Punto wasn't there. Like, these are guys these are winning ball players. These are guys that every team, when you look at like the Ben Zobrises of the world, these are guys that, that are very important to ball clubs.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you 2 quick ones. I just saw the video that you put out about Carlos Gomez being brought in and how that kind of changed your mindset, because one of the things that I've noticed, and I noticed it from the high school level, and I'm trying to get these kids ready, and a lot of it's up here. A lot of it's up here as far as like having that dog in you, not shying away from obstacles and confrontations. And like, sometimes you got to be able to persevere. Take us through that mindset of like, hey, you could bring guys in, because it happened to me. I mean, I was 11 or 12 years old, brought in a new guy, and all of a sudden I was sharing reps at second base. And I was like, I've been an all-star for the last 4 years. And I remember going, I don't want to share ground balls with anybody. I gotta take my game to the next level. And then halfway through the season, they moved them to first base. And the next 6 years, I was the lone guy at second. What is that mindset? What is that mindset? And do you see that being a problem with some young ball players now, where they shy away from any type of resistance whatsoever if it's not easy?
Yeah, they want to be comfortable.
Right.
I think even as all of us as human beings, like we would rather take the path of least resistance.
Right.
Right. What I found in my experience in life is, with competition and adversity, 1 or 2 things are going to happen. And I said it in my Instagram video. Either you're going to fold your tent and take a back seat, or you're going to do something about it. And something within you, that competitive nature within you that you cannot compute on paper. Carlos Gomez is on paper supposed to be twice as good as me.
Right.
better arm than me, hits for more power, better, can argue better athlete than me. You know what I'm saying? But when you put me and it's not a knock against him. I play with him Minnesota and Tampa Bay. One of my favorite teammates. He's my guy. And he's the guy that pushed me to another level. That situation took me from a boy to a man. You know what I mean? I had to look myself in the mirror and say, not up in here. Like, where I come from, dog, like, you're not finna come in here and take what's mine. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I look back over the course of my career and my life, like every time I had adversity, every time I had a setback, it sucked going through it, but it was what I needed. And I came back stronger, and I came back, even more powerful than what I was prior to that situation. And so if you're a young player, a young ball player, young athlete, not saying you should go looking for adversity, but when it comes, you should look it right in its face and say, I'm going to show whoever is doubting me. You should take on that challenge, and you should go out there and fight for what you believe. It should be yours.
I'm with you, because I feel like difficult conversations, difficult moments in your life, difficult decisions that you have to make. And on the other side of that, usually if you do it the right way and you face it head on, you don't shy away from it, man, you get there's a lot of great things that come from it, right? Whether it's a girl that you're afraid to ask out, whether it's a job interview you're nervous about going on, or whether it's something like that where you have the opportunity to, like, all right, fold up my tent, or really meet this thing head on and say, hey, I'm going to give it everything I have, and then whatever happens. And I think this kind of parlays into my final question. I just wanted to give you the floor. I like to do this every couple of times we get together to talk about the foundation. It means the world to me to be a small part of it. And I know for you, like just seeing the impact that you have on our community and the single moms, just go ahead, just talk about the foundation a little bit, the latest, what the future holds, because it's made such a profound impact on the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, my foundation right now, currently, it has my sole undivided attention. It's my purpose right now. It's near and dear to my heart because it's my God work. It's geared towards single mothers. I grew up in a single mother household. Just watching, the way my mom, went about, raising me and my brother. There's no way I would, be where I'm at if it were not for all of her sacrifices and all of her love and just all the things that she did for me. So it has grew a passion within me to just want to give back to those types of families that are in those situations. I think it's crucial. Unfortunately, there are a lot of broken homes, in this world, and which unfortunately, it means that there's broken kids, there's broken right. Emotions that are that these families are faced with. And so for me, like, I love going in and just trying to mentor these kids and just try to just make an impact in these mothers' lives. And we do that with trying to provide for them brand new transportation. We know in Tampa, like, the bus system is not that great. Public transportation is not that great.
Right.
So yeah, this is just where my heart is. And we're small, but I guarantee you, just like I had an 11-year major league career, I guarantee you that my foundation is going to be great. I promise you that.
No doubt about it. DenardSpanFoundation.org, got all the information on there. Make sure, and every time that a big announcement of a big event's coming up, I share it all over my socials. So we'll definitely hear it from @JRecher, and of course @This Is D-Span, one of my favorite people. If I could change one thing about this whole thing, I'd say he's in the Hall of Pretty Great rather than the Hall of Pretty Good, but it is what it is. He's an awesome guy, father, husband, and a really good friend. So, Denard, I love you. Give my love to the family, and we'll talk to you again soon, man. Thanks.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you. Good work, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. The one and only.